review this. This is probably the worst book I've read this year. I hate this so much. I can't even get excited about talking about how much I did not like this. Okay. You can do this. You can do this. Hey, I'm Stephanie, and welcome to Wine Club. This is the playlist where I drink good wine while I whine about bad books. And today's offender is really good, actually, by Monica Heisey, and I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing that because I most likely am. So this book was an add-on to my August Book of the Month box, as I wanted some books that would inspire me and motivate me, and I thought this one about a girl around my age, but I guess 6 years younger. I guess she's 30 by the end, so only 5 years younger. But a woman around my age going through some big life changes would be a really great read. Would be. It was not. Spoiler warning ahead, as I have a lot to say about this book. But let's talk about what the book promised to be about before we get into the review. Maggie is fine. She's doing really good, actually. Sure, she's broke. Her graduate thesis on something obscure is going nowhere, and her marriage only lasted 608 days. But at the ripe old age of 29, Maggie is determined to embrace her new life as a surprisingly young divorcee. TM. Now she has time to take up 9 hobbies, eat hamburgers at 4 a.m., and get back out there, sex-wise. With the support of her tough-loving academic advisor, Maris, her newly divorced friend, Amy, and her group chat, naturally, Maggie barrels through her first year of single life, intermittently dating, occasionally waking up on the floor, and asking herself tough questions along the way. What the fuck were these tough questions? Because they weren't in my copy. Laugh out loud funny, and filled with sharp observations. Really good, actually, is a tender and bittersweet comedy that lays bare the uncertainties of modern love, friendship, and our search for that thing we like to call happiness. This is a remarkable debut from an unforgettable new voice in fiction. Also up at the top, a hilarious and painfully relatable debut novel about one woman's messy search for joy and meaning in the wake of an unexpected breakup, from comedian, essayist, and award-winning screenwriter Monica Heisey. Again, apologies on that last name if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Hilarious and painfully relatable. I mean, the word painful is right. Oh, God. Truly, I was intrigued seeing that this was all over Bookstagram. I could not open my bookish Instagram account without seeing this plastered everywhere. Everyone was talking about it. I think everyone was lying, because to me, this was fucking terrible. I was intrigued because the author is also a writer for Schitt's Creek. Fantastic show. Super fucking funny. Unfortunately, I think she is a much better TV writer than novel writer. It's kind of like J.K. Rowling. She can write books. She cannot write movies. They are different mediums and different types of storytelling. Writers don't have to be good at both, but you have to be good at one. Unfortunately, Heisey is not skilled with writing novels. This was difficult to read. It felt more like I was reading someone's diary, or it honestly should have just been like voiceover over an opening montage of a TV show or movie about our sad sack character, Maggie. I have DNF'd, I think, 2 books in my entire life, and one was 50 Shades of Grey, so you can really see how low the bar is. I really, really, really struggled with this. I'm not a quitter, but my God, did this book challenge my resolve to finish what I start. In the first 70-some pages, I felt really perplexed, as there seemed to be no plot. We are literally just inside Maggie's head as she details buying all this crap she can't afford, and texting John, and emailing people, and bumping into people at the store. Truly, This has no structure. Actually, Okay. So talking about all the things that she's buying that she can't afford, on page 51, I logged into my bank account. I had $200 in a credit card statement that was mostly burgers. Instead of emailing her back, I went online to homeware shops and clothing stores and little accessory boutiques I'd seen on Instagram, filling cart after cart, drinking wine, and imagining the kind of life I'd lead if only I owned these items. Sometimes I went practical, sometimes whimsical, sometimes extravagant. I'd conjure an important event, the Oscars, a second wedding, and craft the perfect outfit or bundle of accessories to stand out in a way that ensured I fit in more than everyone else. I'd decide an Italian villa was in my future, and design a bedroom for it in the sales section of Urban Outfitters, ducking past the vintage items that threw back to my not that distant childhood, in search of the perfect duvet to nap under while my focaccia rose in the other room. It was nice to imagine that owning the right nightgown could help, even if it would actually just put me in very stylish credit card debt. I hit purchase about 20% of the time, but still managed to rack up an impressive number of orders. For instance, I bought a sad lamp, I bought a posture-correcting harness, I bought a $113 candle, later returned. I bought new, humongous underwear, I bought a robe, I bought a set of watercolor paints, sat down with my pathetic little cup of water before realizing I hadn't bought a brush. I bought a big, aggressive vibrator, then a less ambitious one. I bought dinner. I bought a $90 vial of acid to put on my face. I bought a sleep app and another meditation app. I bought plants. I bought a yoga mat, dumbbells, resistance bands. I bought an experimental nail polish. I bought Korean pimple patches in the shape of hearts. I bought a hair mask and a face mask and a hand mask. I bought little plastic bags to put on my feet and waited until the skin sloughed off. I hoped it would all be in one long, large chunk, like a snake molting, but instead it was like walking around on 2 open shakers of processed Parmesan cheese. I bought a consultation with a psychic. It's just page after page of stuff she's buying. I get it, you're trying to go for that humorous angle, but it's just sad. And it's a list. It is a giant list. I don't need to be reading lists. Truly, this has no structure. It's just a meandering mess of internal dialogue and Maggie's thoughts, with sometimes a random snippet of a real scene with her friends. I don't understand Maggie, or really what she wants. What is her goal? What is pushing her forward? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I can't care about her because she doesn't care about anything but her own self-destruction. There is no reason for this story to have been told. For how personal it's supposed to be, it also reads really detached. I have no idea who Maggie is, and I don't really care to find out the more I read this. It read like a therapy exercise where Maggie is supposed to write down what's going on inside her head, but then you rip it up to pieces because she's expelled those thoughts. But nope, we got it in print. It's a gigantic stream of consciousness, and I was not here for it. This is not the type of writing I like, because this isn't a novel. This is just, again, it's a therapy exercise. It's not a book. There's no plot. There's no structure. There's no reason for this. I get wanting to write something for an audience of one, but then you cannot ask for money for it in return and promise a hilarious and painfully relatable debut novel. It's not what we got. Again, what is the point? I so wanted to like this. I so wanted to relate to Maggie. But girl needs some help. I'm sorry, but you're 29? Maggie is a child. She is a 13-year-old girl in a 29-year-old's body. She can't seem to do anything for herself. And girl, I need you to get some self-respect and dignity and take care of yourself. Even Ross Geller, with his 3 divorces, got on with his life. This also really reminded me of that episode of Sex and the City, the OG show, not the dumpster fire sequel. It's when Carrie and Big break up, and she's constantly complaining to her friends, but refuses to do anything about it or make her life better. And they get tired of it, and basically tell her that she needs to go talk to a professional, and Carrie gets all weird about it. That I could buy, because that was late 90s, early 2000s. Therapy was still kind of a joke then. I remember those days. But this book is set in 2019. We don't think like that anymore. No one cares if you go to therapy, Maggie. Most would say that that's healthy of you to talk about it and learn how to move on with your life instead of wallowing in self-pity and crying all the time. I don't blame her friends for starting to pull away. She even admits that she ignores them, avoids them, and cannot bring herself to care about their lives in return. What a friend! I mean, really, Maggie has no redeeming qualities. She outright says she does not care about pretending to be interested in her friends' lives, seems obsessed with her image, and doesn't recognize that this might be a real problem, and inflicts her chaos on those around her, knowing that it's wrong. The whole ED portion of the book is not really addressed, and it's treated as a joke. Again, if this was set in the late 90s, I could kind of understand that because that was the culture, that was the norm. Again, doesn't really fit with the era that we're in now. I don't mind reading about people spinning out of control and making bad choices because of their pain. But they tend to have somewhat of an upward swing, or are at least good people, or learn something along the way. There's a reason that there's a writing method called Save the Cat. We need to see our protagonist do something good and selfless. We need to connect with them. I don't connect with Maggie. Maggie sucks. I actually feel bad for John and him putting up with her. Speaking of John, I also have to say I didn't really feel invested in their relationship. We never hear about what they loved about each other or why she's so broken up about it. The fact that she casually mentions maybe they should divorce, but then is unable to shower for weeks on end? What? I just don't know what was so special about their relationship besides the fact that they were together for 10 years. It doesn't seem like they had a big blow up or that this was building for years and their marriage was a band-aid on a bigger problem. I mean, she is unhinged over their divorce and harassing him with daily texts, emails, and voicemails, none of which he's returning. Sure, I can understand her frustration at the beginning, but girl, take the hint. He don't want to talk to you. Like, I still can't understand what led to their divorce or how he feels about it. God, this book sucks. I also feel so bad for Harry Styles. What did this man do to deserve his literary portrayals? He's the basis of the devil that is Harden from After, and now he's said to have performed intimate acts on Maggie, even though it's like obviously a fantasy of hers, but I feel so bad for him. I also feel bad for her friends in this. I mean, as much as I can, I don't really know them. They're not developed, besides Amy, and maybe Maris in the home stretch. I'd rather read a book about Amira or dum-dum emotional Lauren. Also, for how little these side characters seem to matter or play a part in the book, why do we have two Laurens? Like it was written for a joke and then just kept in through the whole book. Again, this book was said to be laugh out loud funny and painfully relatable. It's painful. They got that right. Like, why? Why do I hate myself? Why can't I simply DNF a book before I get to the point of hate reading? Alright, so lastly, that ending was odd, and it goes back to my biggest gripe with this book. The lack of structure. This does not read like a story. It just kind of ends, I guess, on a hopeful note, but still there's resolution. Heard of it, Heisey? I think this would have worked much better as a piece of creative nonfiction, or a memoir, or a book of personal essays. Trying to turn it into a novel was a bad choice. Because it's not really a novel. It's not really a book. Again, it's just ramblings with like a random, oh, I should probably have Maggie actually talk to another person so it's not just her rambling for almost 400 pages that this book spans. It's not a novel. It's not a book. And it's also, again, almost 400 pages. It's way longer than it needs to be. I'm going to end on a high note, and I am going to say something nice. There were some funny moments. You had to trudge through trash to find them, But there was some humor in this. So, yay. That's all. That sums up my feelings about this. I gave this half a star. I probably should have given it 0. I mean, really, the cover is its saving grace because it looks good. But this book is bad. It's bad. It was, again, the worst book I have read in 2023, maybe even in the last 5 years, because it's not a book. It is the incoherent ramblings of a person going through something, and I understand that. I understand that this is obviously very personal. There are a lot of emotions behind it, like, even when Maggie starts dating somebody new, she cries every time they have sex, and it's like, yeah, maybe you should go talk to somebody about that, because that's not normal. Again, Maggie is a child. She doesn't know how to do anything for herself. She's going through this crisis, which, again, like, that is what I wanted to see. But she doesn't grow. She doesn't seem to learn. She's her own worst enemy by flat out refusing to go to therapy. Anytime anyone mentions, like, one of her friends is like, hey, hi, maybe you should talk to somebody. Nope, I'm fine. I'm really good, actually. I don't need therapy. But you do, because nobody can help you. You are a mess. Like, there's a whole scene when she finally does go to therapy, and the therapist calls John because she was under the assumption that Maggie and John were coming to this together. Maggie set it up, emailed John, even though, again, he hasn't been responding to any of her messages, so he doesn't show up. So then the therapist calls, and he basically tells her, like, has she told you about all these voicemails she's leaving me and harassing me and doing this and blah, blah, blah. And, like, Maggie freaks out, and the therapist kind of just seems to be like, so you want to talk about it? When it's like, I think you need to talk about it. Maggie doesn't need to be ready to talk about it. She has to talk about it. Like, she's a danger to herself and others. Ugh. Yeah, I'm done. I don't want to talk about this book anymore because I hate it. This was really bad, actually. And I know that joke has been made everywhere, but it was really bad. And it's to the point that, like, I don't want it even in my library, tainting my library space, but I also don't want to inflict this on someone else. So it's almost like a cursed object that I have to keep just to make sure there's not one more copy floating around my neighborhood. I'm trying to protect my neighbors. All right, well, thanks for joining me for Wine Club. If you do have recommendations for books that have inspired you or pulled you out of a slump, please tell me about them in the comments below so I can add something good to my to-be-read pile and push this further out of my mind. Thanks for joining me. Toodles.